G'day all. It's been a minute. It's been a couple of months since I last posted anything. There's been a lot that's happened in the time, which is the reason why I haven't been able to post a lot. The majority of that was down to the fact that I couldn't talk. So pretty much, I think the last time I posted something was end of January, and I think it must have been the start of February onwards, things got really, really bad. Basically, to begin with, I think it was around probably the first week of February, I had this overproduction of saliva in my mouth, where I would spit out, and then within a matter of 30 seconds, my mouth would be full of saliva again. So it was a constant. If I wasn't just sitting over the sink spitting, I was sitting on the couch, just sitting there with a mouth full of saliva for about 10 to 15 minutes. That caused me to pretty much not speak for a whole month. The pain that was in here was really bad as well. I was on that many different types of drugs, medication, from steroids to fentanyl patches, Oxycontin in liquid form when I could swallow, in pill form. I was taking Oxy in pill form, Targin, which is like the slow release, Endone, and Endone. So I had a lot, and it was wiping me out. I was pretty much a zombie sitting on the couch for about a month and a bit. Not being able to speak was well, I mean, Sharina was happy she didn't have to hear me yapping about crap, but not being able to speak is pretty bad. How are you? Well, I mean, how do you answer? I have to write a message, show the phone, and that's how we would respond for a whole, and did that for 4 to 6 weeks. Going to see specialists, going to see doctors, things like that. I just couldn't talk, so that's how I relied upon communication. Sharina and I got really good at playing charades, not actually playing the game, but just in communicating. So that was interesting. There was a 2-week period amongst that where, as this was, well, I don't know if it was healing or what it was, but before that, I ended up in hospital. That's right. I ended up in hospital because I wasn't eating. I didn't eat for 4 days straight. That's no food, no water, nothing. I couldn't take a sip of anything for 4 days. At that point, I'd end up losing just under 20 kilos from before I started, before I even got the diagnosis. Actually, sorry, I tell a lie. From before, before I had the diagnosis of what I had, my body weight was around the 88, 89 kilo mark. When they told me I was going to lose weight, I put on about 10 kilo because I knew if I was going to lose weight, then I might as well put it on so I can lose it. And then it wouldn't be that big of a deal, or so I thought. So I managed to get up to, I think it was 98 kilo. And then during all this nonsense in February and the start of March, I managed to get down to 79. So I'd lost close enough to 19, 20 kilos in total, from when treatment started. At 79 though, I'd only lost, still losing 10 kilos a fair amount. So I lost 10 kilos from my pre-diagnosis weight. Anyway, back to it. So during that time in February when I wasn't eating, I think it was a Sunday, Sharina took me into the emergency ward where they'd filled me full of, they gave me, I think it was 2 litres of fluids by IV. And that was the only way I had any liquid. The next day, the Monday, was when I got admitted into hospital and had a PEG fitted. So a PEG is a feeding tube. It's pretty much straight into the stomach. So that was Monday. On the Tuesday, I think was the first day that it actually had any form of nutrition, like nutrients, food, what do you want to call it? Little 200ml bottles of something called Fortisip. Well, there's Fortisip, there was Resource 2.0, and essentially what they are, they're meal replacements, but in small bottles, 200ml bottles. So that was what I lived off for about 3 or 4 weeks. 6 bottles a day, pretty much. Some days I couldn't even, some days I was only having 3. Other days I'd have 4. Towards the end, I was able to smash down 6 of them. And at the end, to begin with, when you've got a feeding tube, you're filling up a 60ml syringe with this liquid, and you're screwing it into your tube, unclipping it so you can actually squirt all your food into your guts. It felt bizarre to start off with, and I don't know if that was a subconscious thing, because by the end of it, I couldn't feel anything when I was feeding. So at the beginning, you'd have to have 60ml of water to flush out the tube, and then a bottle or so 200ml of food, and then another 60ml to flush out the line, your feeding tube, after you'd fed. And that was a way to keep the tube clean, or I think whatever they said. And that took a lot of effort. It doesn't sound much, but it does actually take a lot of effort when you've got no energy whatsoever. Every time I'd stand up, I felt dizzy and felt like I was going to fall over. And all during this, I've still got this mouthful of phlegm and spit and saliva that I'm trying to get rid of on a constant basis, where I can't talk, so I can't tell people how shit it is. It was it was rough. The worst part was coming towards the end of February, where all of this had worked its way further up, and it was right on that point where if you dry swallow, which you do, I don't know how many times a day, but I was vomiting, and I don't know if anyone's done research in or understands chemo, but chemo does cause a lot of nausea and a lot of vomiting. Well, this vomiting wasn't from chemo. This was from this thing in the back of my throat, like right in not in the back of my throat, but right in the middle of my throat, where I'm not even, the way I'm eating is through my guts, so I've got nothing going down this way at all. But then just trying to swallow air or whatever. I was vomiting pretty much every 2 to 3 hours, and it wasn't just one little heave. It was half a dozen, and that happened probably lasted me about 2 to 3 weeks of just constant vomiting. Most of the time I wasn't vomiting anything up. Other times I would have just fed put 2 bottles, plus all my multivitamins I had to have, plus nausea tablets, plus pain relief, plus this, that, and the rest of it. And I'd sit down, and 30 seconds later, I'd be up at the toilet or at the sink, and I'd just vomit and vomit and vomit, and it would all come back up. And it got to a point where I was just like, I even texted, I wrote a message to Sharina and said, is there a way that, can someone put me in a coma until this shit's over? Because it was that bad. And even now, I haven't really allowed myself to get upset over it, which I probably should, considering how horrible this is. I mean, even now, I'm still I've got this thing in my throat where I don't know what it's from, but well, I know what it's from, obviously, but it wasn't there before, but it's now come back since I've had my peg taken out. So I had that feeding tube taken out last week or the week before. I can't remember now. It must have been the week before. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I've had it out for a week or so. Which is, and it's now strange because now it looks like I have 2 belly buttons. So that's just, weird. Funny, but weird. I was able to eat eventually. The vomiting stopped. The fevers stopped. Night sweats, all of that, just horrible shit that was relentless and just, I wasn't getting a break from anything. It was just constant. I was in hospital when I had the peg in, and I still had to go have radiation. It was the last week, thankfully. So I had, excuse me. I needed 3 treatments, three rounds of radiation whilst I was still in hospital. So I did that. I don't know how many times they tried to take blood, but all my veins had collapsed. So I was essentially just a pincushion. I was just getting stabbed left, right, and centre. No one could get a needle in or a vein. Didn't matter how many times they tried. It got to the point where I nurse had come in. I just turn around and look at it and go, "Get out! Don't bother." Which, in my defence, my mental state at that time was pretty bad. I'd hit a low point. I'd always said that I was going to get through this without needing a feeding tube. Clearly, I was wrong. I did need a feeding tube. It was not pleasant. I was able to eat at about 4 to 5 weeks after the tube went in. The problem there is I've only got about 15% of my taste. So food just doesn't feel right. It doesn't taste right. There's certain things I can taste. So I've been having a lot of bacon and eggs for breakfast, or ham and egg omelettes for breakfast or lunch, pasta with pesto or carbonara for dinner. And that's pretty much been it since I've been able to eat. There's not a lot else I can taste. I've tried heaps of different things. Fruit's no good. Fruit hurts going down. And it's also the texture of certain things as well. So I found I've been drinking a lot of Dare iced coffee. That seems to have like a really, really strong flavour. But then if I try and make a normal coffee, it tastes weird, and it's not enjoyable. Kombucha. I was going through 2 to 3 cans of kombucha a day, which probably is way too much. I don't know. I haven't looked, but I was going through a lot of that. I've now, there's Milk, I can't really taste. Things like Ribena, no taste. Doesn't matter how much. Like I could have half a glass of Ribena and half a glass of water, and prior to this, you'd be gagging on it because it'd be so sweet, and I can't even taste it. There's a lot of things. So now my mouth is drying out, but I still have a build-up of mucus and phlegm at the back of my throat, so I've got to bring that up. But the rest of my mouth is really dry, so there's things I can't have. So dry foods like breads and biscuits and things, just it's like chocolate. It's like eating sand. It makes my mouth feel disgusting. It's not enjoyable to eat. It actually feels. It does. There's not just a feel, but it almost makes me sick. So spreads, like I've tried, mum's homemade raspberry jam, can't eat it. Yet the pesto she makes is brilliant. Although I'm now finding that's too dry. So I've switched over to carbonara, making carbonara with pasta. That seems, because it's a creamy sauce, that seems to work a bit more. Although since I had the tube out, it's my throat's now starting to feel like it's closing over. I don't think it's. I'm pretty sure it's not from the surgery of having the tube out. It's just so happened to coincide with having that done. Now I've got all these other things happening with my neck and my throat. The lump there, which was the size of a walnut, has seemingly disappeared. I can still feel a little bit, but as they say, when you get sick, or that was the whole thing when I got sick I didn't even get sick. I went to the doctor because I felt a lump, and the GP said, "Have you been sick lately?" Okay, it's probably just remnants from that. It gets swollen. So I'm assuming what I can feel, I'm hoping what I can feel, the slight little, tiny little lump there is just from that. So I've got this thick crap. I can't think of any other word for it. It's over my tongue and over my mouth at the moment, which I think probably isn't helping with the taste of foods. Because life isn't enjoyable at the moment. Try to go out and try to enjoy things, and I can't. I think what the weirdest thing was, when I still had the tube in, my taste was better than what it was now. So I'm hoping that with this new lump in my throat, or this feeling of my throat being, closing over, which is why it's really, really hard to swallow now, with the feeling of that, feeling like it's closing up, and with this new sensation in my mouth with all this gunk, I think that's somewhat changed my taste. 2 weeks ago, when I still had the peg in, my taste was a lot better. When I say better, I think there were certain things. I'm talking, if I'm only getting 15% now, then 2 weeks ago I might have been at 18%. So it hasn't reduced a lot. But mind you, in saying that, I didn't have a lot to start off with. As I said, like a lot of the foods I just can't taste. A lot of things aren't enjoyable. So what's next? I've got my next PET scan in the middle of May, and then I need to see the oncologist towards the end of May on the 24th. So that's when I find out if I've got the all clear. Other than that, it's just sit and wait and just deal with this shit. So I've now, so all of this is now really affected. So I've got a square patch in the back of my head, which isn't growing. All of this has now stopped growing completely. yes, I've lost pretty much everything except for what you can see in terms of hair loss from radiation. It's not from chemo, it's from radiation. I may look bald, that's only because I shaved my head yesterday. Sorry, on Saturday. Yeah. So other than that, yeah, it's been really rough. Those 2 weeks or so of just constant vomiting, that knocked me for 6. My mental health was, yeah, it was pretty affected. I did hit quite a low point, which I guess is understandable considering everything that's happened. It was hard to see, I mean, yeah, Sharina was just, is there anything I can do? But, I mean, there's nothing that she can do. Even now, it's just a matter of just waiting, and it's just time. Time is the only thing that, that's going to help. Yeah. But, look, I mean, on the positive, as I said, the lump's now gone-ish. I've just had I had an ENT appointment last week, and he said it's looking good so far. So he's quite positive with the way the treatment's gone. I won't really know anything until I have the PET scan in May. So it's just a matter of waiting. Yeah. So anyway, I'll leave it there. Yeah, it's good to be back, I guess. Well, look, I can talk, and that's a big thing. I've started going out more, like I'm going out on weekends. There was a long period of time, probably about 6 weeks, where I didn't leave the house. Everything was it was either the bed or the couch, and that was it. At least now I'm able to get out of the house. I'm able to go do things, and that's helped a lot. It sucked having that feeding tube in, because it's quite noticeable as well. Little Dick, it was called. So Little Dick's now gone. Yeah, kind of, yeah. Anyway, whatever. All right, I'll leave it there. Cheers, y'all. Have a good one. And I guess I'll pop back in next week. See you.